Hello and welcome to part 2 of this video introduction to PA systems and their operation. In part 1 we covered the three elements which would make up a very basic and simple PA system. The three elements or components being a source, such as a microphone, an amplifier and a loudspeaker. We saw that the amp and speaker could be combined into a single unit called a combo or active speaker. We also introduced the problem of feedback, why we should avoid it, and the steps we can take to reduce the chances of it occurring. In part 2, we'll be looking at how we can adapt the system to handle the sound from multiple sources of different types. In order to connect more than one source to our amplifier, we need to insert a further component into our system. This additional component is the mixer or mixing desk. The primary role of the mixer is to receive the electrical signals from the sources, combine them into a single signal and output that signal to the amplifier. A key part of that role is the adjustment or balancing of the incoming signals so that their levels are correct in relation to one another. For the time being, for simplicity, we'll just consider a very basic two-channel mixer. By two-channel, we mean that it can receive inputs from two sources. In reality, most mixers have rather more than two input channels, but two is fine for our current purposes. So, here is our simple two-channel mixer. Each input channel has its own fader, which controls how much of the sound from that channel is sent to the output section of the mixer. The output section has its own master fader, which controls the overall level of the mixed signal being sent to the amplifier. Let's now look at input channel 1 on our mixer. If we set the fader to the bottom of its range, no sound will be sent from channel 1 to the output section of the mixer. As we slide the fader up, progressively more volume will be sent to the output section. We could, in theory, set the fader to the top to send maximum level to the output section, but in practice we generally set the fader to a level less than maximum in order to give some leeway to adjust up or down as required. Now, this is the point at which I need to introduce the fact that different types of source produce electrical signals of rather different strengths. For example, an electric keyboard will typically produce a much stronger signal than that produced by a microphone. Also, most mixer inputs are designed to be able to receive signals of a wide range of strengths. The significance of this is that if, for example, our simple two-channel mixer has a keyboard source connected to channel 1 and a microphone connected to channel 2, then to balance the signal levels for the output section, we would have to set our input channel faders at rather different positions. There are several good practical, electrical and operational reasons why this is not desirable, but they are beyond the scope of this chapter. Suffice to say for the time being that we should aim to be running our input channel faders at about 75% of maximum. In order to achieve this, there needs to be another control on each input channel, a control which adjusts how much signal reaches the channel fader in the first place. This control is typically called a gain control, but may be referred to as a preamp control. Gain controls normally take the form of a rotary knob and can usually be found near the top of each input channel. A useful way of understanding this is to think of the gain control as being a kind of inlet valve which regulates how much of the source signal gets allowed into the mixer. With each input channel having a gain control, we can now tailor the incoming signal of each channel to a level which allows our input faders to all sit at about the same position, usually about 3/4 of the way up to maximum. You'll see on this diagram here that we have set the gain for channel 2 rather higher than the gain for channel 1. This is to compensate for the fact that the keyboard connected to channel 1 produces a somewhat stronger signal than the microphone connected to channel 2. With the gain controls correctly set in this way, we can run the faders for each channel at about the same level as one another, which ultimately simplifies things for live mixing. Well, I think that's about as far as we should go with this chapter. In part 3, we'll look at how you connect sources to the mixer and how you set the gain to an appropriate level for any given source. Also, for a change, we'll be using some real mixer pictures and active video clips rather than just my slightly dull diagrams. Right, see you in part 3.